Another episode here, Between Two Lockboxes, presented by Broke Agent Media. We are here in St. Petersburg, live, smoking Cubans. I am sideways right now. We are joined by an Emmy Award winner, the first ever on the show. Keynote speaker, over 250 events, that is just nuts. Video marketing expert and investor, Mr. Brandon T. Adams.
Woo, woo.
Do you consider yourself fashionable?
No. I mean, if you consider fashionable wearing the same clothing outfit every year or every day for the last 4 years, all black, sure,
yeah.
I'm fashionable.
Let's put up a picture of literally every single Instagram post and everything he's ever worn. Same outfit. Black bomber, black t-shirt, black jeans.
So for the reason for that is because it's proven you actually waste brain power thinking about what you have to wear every day. I want to make my life simple and not have to worry about what I had to wear.
2 Emmys.
Uh-huh.
What did you win your Emmy for?
We created a TV show in 2000, and so in 2018 we traveled the country on this mission to find the true meaning of success. My wife and I, fiance now wife, Samantha Rosine, created a show around the question, what is success? We interviewed homeless to billionaires to athletes to musicians to the most interesting people in the world. And we won an Emmy for the Shea Hillenbrand story for baseball players out there. 2-time All-Star, played for the Red Sox, played for the Dodgers. We won an Emmy for his story, documentary, and then also we won an Emmy recently for my wife's story called Red Flags, which is a story on her overcoming drug addiction and domestic violence. And so the red flags in your life, we won an Emmy for that. So 2 Emmys.
I obviously do my own research right before we have a guest on. I ask around, right, I get a little, intel. Did hear that at one point in time, with all this giant success, that you did have an ice cube business, and it may or may not, I don't know, maybe we don't put this in, may or may not have went bankrupt, maybe.
So here's, dude, this is good shit. In 1986, my dad started a business. He worked for a guy that sold packaged ice for a living. It was the beginning of the business, and he basically told the guy, hey, after he worked for him for a while, he said, either you sell me the business or I'm gonna go elsewhere. He sold him the business, and he started creating what was called Adams Ice Service. My last name is Adams, Brandon T. Adams, and so Adams Ice Service. So we were a wholesale distributor. We bought it from a manufacturer that manufactured a lot of ice, cubed ice, put it into bags, so they were 20-pound bags, 5-pound bags, and block ice. We bought it from them, we put it into our big cooler, and then we sold it, we distributed it. We had ice trucks, refrigerated units, we sold it to bars, restaurants, Walmarts, you name it. So for me, here's the problem. I was always thinking bigger. So I bought the business, and while doing that, I was creating my production company and other endeavors, and eventually those made more money than the ice business did. But what happened is, I was doing the ice business while doing everything else, and I was so leveraged and so into my TV show, production, everything. It's like 2008 hit, right? Well, 2008 in my world hit while doing all these things, and I was like, what am I gonna do? I almost went bankrupt. I ended up selling the business to my best friends who were doing very well now. I talk to them all the time.
Is it still called Adams Ice?
It's called Icy Conditions now.
Okay.
And they're doing very well. Yeah, I sold packaged ice for a living. That was the foundation that created my career, which allowed me to understand the power of customer relationship, adding value, knowing how to sell, selling ice. I could sell ice to an Eskimo, but it ultimately led me to doing what I did today.
You recently did a shoot with Carmen Electra.
Ha! Yes.
There is no question. That is just my dream. Sorry, Emily. How did you get so good on camera?
Here's the most powerful thing about being on camera. If you can learn to tell a story, whether your story or somebody else's story, that's what people love. People buy into stories. Stories is what attract people. Stories is what people buy from. Storytelling is what makes people buy into it. So I learned to tell my story, and eventually I learned to tell other people's story.
How'd you get so good at public speaking? Speaking at events?
So it comes public speaking. So backstory for anybody listening, I grew up with a speech impediment. So when I was a kid, I had a problem with I had a lisp. So my S's, I couldn't say them effectively. And I remember in kindergarten, my teacher went to my parents, said he has a speech impediment, he needs to go to speech class. And so I hated it because I had to go to speech class. I'm this guy that's different. I couldn't speak properly. And so what I did is I practiced in front of the mirror every night. And I said my S's, I said, different words, and I was mastering my speaking. I told myself I'm going to become a great speaker, and then I started, when people say, do you have a lisp? I ignored them and said, no, what are you talking about? I started telling myself I didn't have a lisp. By the time I was 14 years old, I no longer had a speech impediment, and I started putting myself in situations that were very uncomfortable. So think about speech class in high school or public events. I would volunteer to speak in front of a group. It scared the hell out of me, but I did it because I knew I would get better. Once I got to college, I did more of it. And so I started mastering my disadvantage and made it my advantage. So what I did is I mastered the communicating process, and I learned to tell great stories, because it's proven when people hear a story, they're more likely to retain the information and they're more likely to do something with it. So then I mastered my storytelling process, which made me, let's say, a great speaker. Right. And then I turned that into film and doing storytelling through video, through films, through TV shows. And that's why, again, going back to the Emmy, how do you win Emmy? Tell a great story. If you can master your storytelling process, you can master communication through speaking, podcasting, events, anything you want to do.
What's one piece of advice for, on the real estate agent side of things, for video marketing, right? Somebody that might be hesitant to put themselves out there, right? Like you just told a great story, you overcame your speech impediment by practicing and just putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. What would be a piece of advice for an agent or somebody that wants to get on camera but feels like they're a little bit self-conscious or they're in their own head, right? Like everyone has their own insecurities, we all do. What would be one piece of advice for someone?
They worry too much about what people think, and they're the typical agent. I'm a real estate agent, I can help you sell your home. That's great. All agents say that. You know what makes you different? People buy from people they like, trust, and know. How do you get somebody to like you? How do you get them to trust you? Tell your story and be authentic and be real about who you really are as a person. So tell your story, because your stories and who you are as a person, your commonalities will relate with the people watching your story. If they connect with you on a deeper level, they're gonna buy from you versus somebody else. The video in the world we live in on social media, you can reach more people and you're building like and trust. And then you happen to go to an event, you go to a networking event, you meet that person in person, and you never met them before, but they know who you are because they followed your videos, and they feel like they knew you as a person. So then you meet them in person, and the conversion rate, the more likely they're gonna work with you, is gonna go faster than somebody that doesn't create videos.
Right. What was the last thing, speaking of education, what was the last thing that you Googled?
Who the f is Dan Oneil?
All right, that's the end. Between two log boxes, I'm sweating, I'm sideways.